I invited my friends to a local bar to relax with a few beers. As we became drunker, we went to the club in the back. The left-hand sitting was great for us. A friend gave me a powerful anxiety-relieving anesthetic/painkiller while I got more beers. Despite knowing it was wrong, I took a small dose of the highly strong anesthetic with alcohol. I noticed something was off when I took a big breath. I saw my blood pressure dropping and my peripheral vision darkened. Passed out suddenly. My friends told me I quickly went into respiratory failure, but I was unconscious. Being instantaneously transported to another universe made me utterly unaware of my surroundings. I felt like I was flying between two endless columns in a huge coliseum. A strangely strong light illuminated the coliseum. My right side's massive presence was the most crucial part of my event. I could only see myself as a beam of energy sharing a greater power's light since I had no body. Right-sided electricity was overwhelming and encouraging. If my eyesight hadn't been 360 degrees, I would have assumed I was stuck between one of the gigantic columns, but there was nothing behind me. I'm not sure if it was my soul family, spirit guide, or higher self. The only way I can describe the brilliant brightness is like a prism. A prism shows light's range of colors in a science class. I was surrounded by a dazzling and lovely rainbow of colors and white light. I call that God or the universe. Large size gave quiet and serenity. The bright arena is hard to convey. Earth receives only a modest amount of electromagnetic energy, including infrared and ultraviolet. This domain appeared to show the complete light spectrum. I've illustrated the notion with a pearl within an oyster. You see a nice white with pink and purple overtones, but imagine being exposed to all infrared and ultraviolet radiation. A lovely tint with a calming flow. Peace, love, and unending love were present. Many said it was like coming home. 4 bright electric beams greeted me. It felt like they were all around me, not just ahead. I recognized them immediately. Even without visible features, I could recognize them by vibration or frequency. The first 3 rays were young in the weeks before passing. 2 babies and a 3-year-old daughter. Not simply telepathy, but an overwhelming sense of knowing and understanding their essence in the discourse. There was no conversation. It wasn't about that, though I wish it were. I learned more about their spiritual or life path by looking at the big picture. Their earthly existence was rarely mentioned. Their objective seemed to be to reassure me that I could move on. Given my brief stay on the ward, this statement made me suspect their intentions for greeting me. I was connected to my best friend, the 4th energy beam, 6 months after her death. Our language with him was different. Even without seeing him, I could tell it was him by the frequency due to our connection on Earth. His presence created a unique bond. I thought he had become a huge energy source since he didn't believe in God. More amazing energy extended beyond these 4 beams. They were too big to describe. Their unity was apparent, like giant cedar trees. This happened 16 years ago, but I can still recall it. This was more than a dream. It was unforgettable. It was real. This event was remarkable because of how they made you feel, not their words. I also saw beams in a coliseum behind me. We seemed connected by unseen love or light in this other world. After that, my best friend recalled our last earthly encounter. Thank goodness I was in the hospital room when Dad died. It was a privilege to attend due to the personal aspect of the event and the reality that many die silently. Even after weeks of waiting, a brief gap can kill the person. He was unprepared to depart. Our conversations 3 weeks before his death are still clear in my mind. He died before getting a treatment mask fitted. He was unprepared for death. Given his outstanding career, I understood his desire to stay. He died in that room, and I was furious. I shouted, "Please, just show me that you're okay." Brendan showed me this image from his perspective, so I imagined urgently grasping for the ceiling in the corner for any sign. I felt everything I normally do, but I also felt his emotions as if I were him. I thought he left his body at that moment, finding relief and ready to continue. Shared death experiences are common, and I think mine happened. It was stunning and strange since it was nearly retroactive. Though in that dimension, the memory was distinct. Everything happened at once, but I'm describing it chronologically. Due to the lack of time up there, the information flood seemed to last an hour even though it was just minutes or seconds. This self-perception made me realize I could die. Being dead didn't bother me. At the club, I wondered how I died. I knew this wasn't perfect, but didn't feel guilty. I imagined my parents sleeping in bed as I pondered about them and my family. This concept brought me back to reality. I remember entering the club and bar on my way back, albeit it was quick. I saw the wood fragments clearly when I crossed the bar. The wood seemed tree-like. After returning to the club, I saw my corpse on the floor and heard nothing. Despite my inability to see my body, I knew my consciousness could not merge with it. My awareness had become so large that I could never return to the small body. This was the most upsetting part. I knew I was dead but didn't care seconds before in a beautiful realm. I was frightened when I returned home. My fear of losing control of my body is still fresh. Power I felt made my body look weak. My greatest dream is that I seemed as enthusiastic as my best friend and the kids. My genuine appearance eluded me. Viewing my body again felt meaningless after viewing the majesty. How can I restore consciousness to that body? My consciousness wavered in the bar and wood. I saw the wood, including the bar's dirt and filth, clearly. It was like a hand wave. Whether intentionally or not, my consciousness returned to my body. The gigantic intellect striving to reintegrate into a tiny, insignificant body was like an airbeat. When it returned, my senses were overwhelmed. I could feel the pain in my face, hear the dance music, and see security and my friends as my friends smacked me to get me going again. "I've seen Brendan," means I sat up and said it. Brendan was nearby. Everyone knew Brendan died months previously, so it seemed absurd. PTSD was another terrible part of returning. I missed 5 or 10 minutes, but it felt like 3 weeks. Staying at the club belied my expertise. I was obsessed with this event for months and couldn't understand time. In the immediate aftermath, I told my friends. I'm still close to many who knew what happened to me. The topic is difficult to discuss with coworkers. After 20 years in healthcare, I can attest that this is a difficult topic to address because many will discount or refute your claims. I am not here to prove anything. A unique occurrence changed my life forever. Before my NDE, my family and I were atheists. This encounter changed everything for me. I started believing in a higher power or universe, not God. The thought that we all have a soul family has strengthened me and made me spiritual. I used to doubt prayer, but now I pray often and believe in its power. Before my encounters, I didn't comprehend how energy is related. Because our thoughts are powerful, it's best to avoid dwelling on bad experiences. Avoid conflict if possible because its aftermath can span weeks or months. The power of prayer has been shown.